Hey guys, UHD here, and welcome to my very first reaction video on my backup channel. Now today, I'm going to react to something called, which is a new MLP creepypasta that I'm going to react to. It is called Something Sweet to Bite, and it's on Emogak's channel. Even though I never actually heard of Emogak, of course, I do like watching The Lost Narrator, but yeah. I was looking for the Something Sweet to Buy fanfic reading on Lost Neighbor's channel, but I found this, so yeah, don't blame me if it's not the Lost Narrator. But I did hear that the Lost Narrator voice acted in this. Of course, I don't know if Rainbow Dash is gonna be in this. I do know that she does a Rainbow Dash and Applejack voice, but yeah, let's see who else is in this. So yeah. I don't know if it's going to be too scary or not, but I like to see it. Let's go ahead and get this started in 3, 2, 1, go.
Warning. The following reading contains subject matter that some listeners might find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised.
Tego Emogak.
A bat flit across the face of a monstrous harvest moon, its leathery wings.
Okay, so we got Sweet Apple Acres,
leaving swirls and spirals in its wake. The creature of the night flew back and forth, eating the last bugs of the season. Fat as it was, the bat would need every scrap of weight it could put on before the harsh winter months. Already a few of its fellows had secluded themselves in caves and hollow trees, snug and plump, lost in half-sleep that would last until spring. A moth stirred up from its grass, its gossamer wings, making it a pale ghost in the moonlight. A quick snap of tiny jaws and the mouthful was gobbled down. With a surge of its wings, the bat flew on into the night. As it neared a barn blazing with light, the creature became...
Of course, that is Sweet Apple Acres.
Usually at this time of night, the barn would be empty, dark and inviting for one of its kind.
But
instead,
isn't Applejack supposed to be in that barn?
Ponies busily at work inside. It would have flown closer for a better look, but a sudden chill ran down its spine, making it think twice. An instinct that even it barely understood screamed louder and clearer in the bat's tiny head. Danger! Best to move on and find more prey. Best to find a
Is horror gonna start already?
In the deep, dreamless sleep of hibernation.
Oh, come on, can we do it a little later?
Come
Come on, dude.
Nothing but death.
That's right, nothing but death at all.
Apple Bloom!
Called Applejack, putting
there it is. There she is, the Lost Narrator.
With wax paper to
of course.
Benches set up in the barn lined the walls.
That's her Applejack voice.
The sugar-coated fruit.
Where has that filly gone off to?
She muttered to herself. A cauldron, half empty but for a hissing puddle of sweet brown syrup, cooled over a pile of smoldering coals just outside the barn door. The barn itself was warm and snug.
There she is. There's Applejack.
Sweet scent of sugary treats. Quite the contrast to the chilled night outside.
So far, it's
even so,
good art.
Applejack couldn't help drawing the cool air into her lungs with a satisfied smile as she stepped out to look for her sister. She loved this time of year. Winter would be here soon enough, it was true, and that had its own work and worry, just like spring and summer. But the autumn months, after harvest, were a time of relaxation and fun for the Apple family. With the crops in, safe and sound, money would be rolling into Sweet Apple Acres before too long. It was a tradition in their family to share the wealth, and what better way than to provide all kinds of apple-themed treats and games for kiddies at Nightmare Night. Nightmare Night.
Yeah, of course. Applejack has a lot of plans for Nightmare Night. A lot of games and such.
Did it big. Of course, the holiday had
and of course, all those scary pranks that nobody knows
that's
going to happen.
Every year, Granny Smith would have tubs set up in Ponyville for the townsfolk to bob for apples. She had taken to turning in early and letting Applejack make sure that they stay full and crisp, delicious apples. Even so, Granny Smith was still an important part of the festival.
Can you please stop talking about apples? You're gonna make me want apples.
He'd offer hay rides for the community as well. Even Apple Bloom seemed to be taking more of an interest in the festivities. Last year, she'd gone around with Pinkie Pie collecting candy with her friends. But this year, she seemed to be really interested in helping Applejack make up a few homemade treats to pass out at the festival in town. A few of the recipes Apple Bloom was trying out seemed a mite odd. but
Feels like we're
Applejack didn't
going
mind
back
trying new
into,
things, so long as they were able to finish making their batch of usual treats as well.
I forgot what
only
the first
problem was,
Halloween episode
after
of My Little
helping
Pony
Applejack
was.
spare a few apples and dip them in the bubbling caramel, Apple Bloom seemed to quickly lost interest and wandered off to do her own thing. Really, Applejack shouldn't have been surprised. Apple Bloom had a habit of getting distracted by the least
I think
little
it's
thing.
Luna Eclipse.
They should have been done making
I think it's
treats
Luna
hours
Eclipse.
ago, but as it was,
Of course,
she
that
still
episode
had about
did have to
half
do
the
with
apples
Luna.
left to dip. Worse, she
And
was
a new
running out of
design for
caramel
Luna.
and firewood.
Apple Bloom!
Called Applejack again as she went to the side
Yeah,
of the
Apple
barn
Bloom,
where
where
the
are
wood
you?
pile was kept to get a few fresh sticks.
Wherever you run off to, get your flank back here, Missy. We got a lot of apples to dip before we store 'em in the barn to dry, and we're gonna burn through the midnight oil with all your diddly-daddling.
The country pony paused and
Diddly-daddling.
listened. The fog that
Is Apple Bloom
curled
gonna
through the orchard
scare
tonight did strange
scare
things
Applejack?
to the familiar sounds of the farm.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see that.
muffling noises that Applejack would normally find comforting and amplifying those she couldn't identify. She didn't hear the sounds of tiny hoofs coming her way, nor did she hear her little sister's voice calling out in response. What she thought she heard was giggling.
Uh-oh.
High, girlish giggling, just on the edge of her hearing. It wasn't
that?
something any pony wanted to hear all alone on a dark night.
Easy, girl. You're just spooking yourself.
Applejack reassured herself under her breath as she quickly piled a few dry branches on her back for the fire. She really wished that Granny Smith didn't go to sleep so early and that
That
Big
was
Macintosh wasn't off in
unexpected.
town helping set up
I'm
for tomorrow's
curious, was that
celebration.
Pinkie Pie?
More than anything, she wished Apple Bloom would stop
Was that a
wandering off on her
creepypasta?
own.
Pinkie Pie?
A farm was no place for a young filly to go exploring by herself, especially at night. Applejack had heard too many horror stories of colts playing around on farm equipment and hurting themselves. Perhaps more dreadful were the stories of fillies falling into old sinkholes or boarded up wells and no pony finding them until months later, if they found them at all. A thought suddenly occurred to Applejack as she headed back towards the front of the barn.
Apple Bloom, you better not be playing a trick on me. It
It's
ain't
gonna be a
nightmare
trick.
night just yet.
When there was no
It's
answer,
gonna be a trick.
she tried.
I'll tell Big Macintosh on you.
There was still no answer. At least, no answer she wanted to acknowledge as being more than a figment of her imagination. As she rounded the side of the barn, a sudden burst of flame whooshed into life, painting the fog bright orange. Applejack jumped back, the firewood she carried on her back scattering at her hooves. She almost bolted there and then, but calmed down when she realized the flames were under the cauldron. Some pony had
Come on,
gotten the
Apple Bloom,
fire
just
going
do a
again while she'd
scare
been
on
back at
Applejack.
the woodpile. Had Apple Bloom gone to fetch more wood and she missed her going around the other side of the barn? As Applejack grew closer, she saw whomever had built up the fire had used too much fuel. The flames were licking up the side of the cauldron, bright and hungry. Already she could see that the caramel that had been left in the pot was bubbling up. At this rate, it would burn and blacken, going completely to waste.
Oh, Apple Bloom, sweetie, you can't use this much wood. You need a low heat for this kind of treat.
She went to drag the cauldron out of the fire
Uh-oh.
and save what she could of the caramel, careful to avoid the leaping and
I'm
flickering
getting kind of
flames.
nervous for this. I don't like
Found
it.
the old pot wouldn't budge. It was usually only this heavy when it was full, not half empty like it was. Applejack did the best she could, tugging on the cauldron inch by inch away from the barn. But once it was on a patch of damp dirt, she went about kicking sand over what flames she could, trying to tame the wildfire. The flames subdued a bit, so Applejack decided she'd try to get her sister's help to get the cauldron back in place.
Apple Bloom, you in here?
Asked Applejack as she cantered into the barn. The lanterns had been blown out. By the light from the fire, Applejack could tell the barn was empty on the inside. Empty, that is, save for a pile of sticky popsicle sticks that
Are
used
Granny
to
Smith
have
and Big
caramel
Mac
apples
dead?
on the end, sitting boldly on the benches. Even the apples that hadn't even been dipped yet were missing. A tiny voice. So that's what was going on.
Apple Bloom, I can't believe you. These treats were for tomorrow to share with all the fillies and colts who came looking for sweets to bite. How could you and your friends
Yeah,
be
definitely
so
sweets
selfish
to
eat
bite.
them all before they even had a chance to dry?
Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo had to be in on this. Sweet Apple Acres produce might be good enough that a filly would like to try to eat a whole bushel in one go, but one filly couldn't have eaten all the apples Applejack had dipped. Even 3 managing it was a stretch, but that was the only logical conclusion she could come to.
Apple Bloom, you get out here, young missy. you and your friends. Or I swear I'll be writing a letter to Celestia about how I learned to break Philly's rumps with my bare hooves.
Still, there was nothing but silence.
Of course, she wears nothing on her
There was
hooves.
that high, girlish giggling again. It sounded like it was coming from the cauldron, but that couldn't be right. It didn't make any sense. How could the girls be hiding in that bubbling hot mess? Applejack moved tentatively towards the cauldron, her eyes darting back and forth. Beyond the glow of the fire, there was nothing but darkness, mist, and fading moonlight. The smoke of partially quenched fire burned her eyes as she looked into the big black.
Yeah, I'm like getting goosebumps
ready
of
to jump
what's
back
going
at the
on right
first sign of
now.
a trick. She froze, her eyes locked on the sad, shriveled-up figure curled into a ball at the bottom of the pot. She was completely covered in bubbling brown sugar, but even so, Applejack
Brown
could
sugar?
tell right away the tiny figure was her sister.
Apple Bloom!
She screamed. Applejack reached into the cauldron with her bare hooves, burning her limbs on the still hot metal as she closed them around Apple Bloom's unmoving form. The pain of her shearing flesh nothing compared to the agony that tore at her heart. How had this happened? Had her sister somehow fallen?
Is that a heart?
Why hadn't she cried out? Why hadn't she screamed? Applejack ran into the barn where there was a trough of water and quickly dunked Apple Bloom's body into the cold liquid. The caramel was already starting to set. The sticky gunk
Sorry, there was a
wouldn't come off.
tapping at.
Applejack did the best she could, but a part of her knew that it was
It's been my
already
door.
too late.
Someone's at my
Her
door.
sister wasn't breathing. She tried hammering on her tiny chest, put a mouth to her sister's, and breathed air into her lungs. It did nothing but leave a sickly sweet taste in her mouth, pieces of half-dried caramel sticking to her lips.
Ugh.
That was too much for her. She fell back on her haunches, wiping her mouth with her hoof, trying to get rid of the taste. The taste of death and candy.
Death and
She felt
candy.
her gorge rise as tears pricked in the corners of her eyes. How could this have happened? She blamed herself. What kind of horrible sister was she? That's when she heard the laughter again. It filled the barn, vibrating through the straw beneath her flank, and seemed to echo inside her chest, inside her head. There were words, too, in a childish sing-song voice.
Oh, I feel so bad for Apple Bloom.
Applejack got up, backed away, wildly turning her head back and forth, trying to find the source of the song and the horrible mocking laughter.
Of course.
Where are ya? Who are ya? Did you do this? Did you do this to Apple Bloom? What did my sister ever do to deserve this?
Applejack howled.
Yeah, even if I were
tears of
there, I would
anger
definitely
and
save her.
sadness spilling from her eyes. She backed slowly out of the barn, looking at her sister's body, turning around and around. Where was the laughter coming from? She stumbled out into the cool night air, still reeling from what happened to her sister, still haunted by the laughter of children she couldn't see. If she had watched where she was going, she might not have tried.
My friends would love this.
She didn't realize she had.
I have a couple friends who like
until
scary
flames were
stuff.
chasing themselves through her tail and flickering up into her mane. Panicked beyond all reason, she reared back on her hind legs and fell right into the still cooling cauldron. She screamed then, loud enough to wake the dead, as her flesh burst and blistered from the heat and the sticky caramel seeped into her wounds. Everywhere the metal of the pot touched, a layer of her skin stuck, sizzling and smoking as it parted from the rest of her body. Blinded by the smoke of her own burning flesh, the stench choking her even as she fought for more air which to scream. She tried desperately to climb out of the cauldron. The sides,
know,
slick with her own
I
blood,
saw
slipped
Lost
from her
Narrator's
painful fumbling.
Friendship is
The
Grim
giggling
Dark,
rose all around her.
Friendship is Scary video that
A face
I have been
covered in
spoiled
smoke.
that
It was huge.
Applejack gets impaled.
Eyes pinwheels of madness. Its teeth sharp and pointed.
Give us something sweet to bite.
Sang gleefully as it lunged forward. Applejack felt those sharp
It's-
teeth close
I
around
believe it's
Applejack's
trying to
face.
tell me that
One
Pinkie
eye
Pie
went
is
dark as
the
it popped between
candy
her
mirror.
sharp fangs. Her shriek faded to a
Yep.
gurgle as the monster
Here it
ripped
comes.
away part of her face and
Here it
blood,
comes.
chewed and swallowed the bloody wad of flesh. With a burst of adrenaline, Applejack managed to scamper out of the cauldron and crumble to the earth. She felt something crack as she hit the dirt, but it didn't matter. She just had to run. She had to get away. She couldn't get up properly, but still she dragged herself through the dirt. A mad idea seized her. If she could get to the barn, Just get to the barn and close the door.
I hate to
She
say
could
this,
buy
guys,
herself
but
some time to think.
I
Just
think I'm getting sick.
think. Tears spilling from her one remaining eye, she labored over the earth.
And I've also been spoiled that she was
safety now seeming miles.
choking on her own
She
blood.
expected the monster's teeth to find her again. With mild disbelief, Applejack tumbled into the barn and slammed the door behind her. She panted heavily, finding it hard to suck air into lungs while there was a hole in her throat. She started coughing uncontrollably, suffocating on her own blood and terror. Something slammed
Please don't,
through the
Applejack,
door
please
behind
don't die
her
on
like a
me.
freight train.
Don't you die on me!
And whimper. The wood splintered as laughter shook the ground of the entire barn. She stood on her hind legs with her back to the barn door, bracing her burnt and melted limbs against the door and the slippery straw-covered floor as best she could. This couldn't be happening. She couldn't handle
Yeah,
something
why
like
is this
on her own.
happening?
She needed help. She needed help right now. As she opened her mouth to scream again, this time to yell as loud as she could for help. She felt something suddenly burst between her jaws. It happened as if it was in slow motion. The wooden door blossomed, opening like a rare red flower, all spines and petals gaping wide as if to entice a
Goodness.
lover. Shards and shards
Jeez.
sending a shower of scarlet spurting from her that splashed across the barn door in a pattern that looked almost like wings. She never had time to register the pain as the thing that caused the hole, something large and cylindrical, was forced clean through her back and up through her ribcage and into her mouth
Ugh.
from her throat. She
Goodness.
couldn't tell what it was at first, but the taste of dirt on the fence post mixed with her own blood as the sharp end skewered her tongue. She felt her teeth break and her jaw pop loose from the rest of her skull as with another
Jeez,
forceful
I'm-
shove, the post shattered the door behind her and the creature began to force its own body through. She felt parts of her she had never
Well-
felt before burst within her body.
Well,
The
I can't
thick
really see it,
shaft
so
of wood churned her
I think
into
we're all
a
good.
broken
I'm
slush.
good. But I'm getting a little sick, though.
Whatever it was, tore through the barn door like it was tissue paper. A look of triumph on
Jeez
which she could
almighty!
see of its twisted face.
How much pain is there in that
Shards of
scene?
wood embedded in her back anymore. Only the wood that had impaled her. It was almost a relief when her burning lung collapsed, and the rhythm of her heart slowed, stuttering its final beats. The last thing that flickered across her consciousness before she finally died was a figure raising her into the air, smiling, giggling all the while, and taking another bite of the caramel-coated Applejack.
Caramel? Caramel? Really?
Why is it so cold, Mummy?
It's been cold like this for the last few years, dear Art. You know that.
Wait, who is that?
Pegasi have been trying to freeze us out, thinking we'd give them more food if they made it hard for us. But we'll show them the Earth ponies are made of sterner stuff.
A Pegasi? Are you hopping on about that again, sweetie?
Who else, dear? You
Wait.
said yourself that when you're out playing the field for my
Is that
brother,
Apple
you've
Bloom?
seen them darting about in the clouds above.
Kinda looks like it because of the
Oh,
bow.
trying to figure out what those high mighty unicorns have done to make it snow and cold all the time. You mark my words, those Pegasi have stumped us about all this. It's magic that's in those clouds, and magic what's bringing this unnatural cold upon us.
Could the unicorns make them go away, Daddy? Could they make it stop being so cold?
They can do anything, love. Anything at all, them. Why, just a fortnight ago when I and your uncle went to deliver our Tid, I seen one of them fancy unicorns taking some of our produce and putting it into a box of his. Powered by magic it was. One end went in strawberries, the other end out popped this strange creamy concoction that was as cold as any snowdrift.
Ah, you and your tales. You'll be giving her ideas about those hornheads are all powerful next. Their hooves are in the dirt as much as ours, but they act like they're even higher in the clouds than the Pegasi. Not
Oh
so
man,
different
I'm
from
like,
us Earth ponies,
I'm like
that
really
lot.
scared right now. My
They
nerves are
always seem to be
shocked.
putting on airs. We don't need you spreading their propaganda for them.
But it's true. He said he ran something called a sweets shop. Told me to stop in with my daughter next time I was in town and he'd give her a treat.
Next time you're in town? Do you mean the city, Daddy? The castle? home.
Yeah,
I've
it might be the city.
You know how much I've always wanted to go, Daddy. To see the High Lords and Ladies.
Yes, well, your Da and I will have to have a talk about that. You get on with your chores. Step lively. Brisk work of the limbs will do wonders to keep the chill out your bones.
It was a bright autumnal day.
Oh, I forgot to tell you that this is part 1 of the story.
Crisp and
Oh,
seed leaves dancing
now we
and
have,
tumbling playfully in the streets,
Diamond Tiara and
even
Apple
as the
Bloom.
sun still shone merrily. Though it was sad to see summer end, the ponies of Equestria knew the necessity of all 4 seasons, so most of the town of Ponyville walked with a spring in their step, despite the chill that hung in the air. None were perhaps as chipper as Pinkie Pie, though, the self-proclaimed friend of every pony.
I recognize that
Pinkie
music.
Pie
Is
was a
that
ball of energy as she went
the
about
music
putting
from the
up
song
decorations
Mrs.
for the
Halloween
coming
from
Nightmare
Nightmare
Night
Before Christmas?
celebrations. There was so much to do. Even with help, she had to start a week in advance to get it all done in time. This was
Well,
no chore for Pinkie, though.
even
She
though
loved
that
decorating
people
like this and
think
watching
that
the
Night
town
Before Christmas is a
transform
Christmas
before her eyes
movie,
from its usual
it is a
self
Halloween movie.
to one just a little bit scary, but fun. Since it was afternoon and school had let out, a few of the town's children were helping her spread fake spider webbing around the post office. They had to clear away a few very real cobwebs before they started. Not many ponies visited the post office themselves these days.
This is a waste of time. I don't know why Daddy insists we help with these decorations when no pony is ever going to see them.
Moaned Diamond Tiara.
The only ponies that bother with the post office are practically Nightmare Night decorations themselves.
The pampered filly sneered at a pair of nearsighted elderly ponies who were busy trying to figure out how many bits it would cost to send a package to Baltimore.
Totally.
Agreed Silver Spoon, as usual.
It's a waste of time when their eyes
You know,
are so bad they
you know what's
can't
kinda weird?
actually see the
Almost
decorations
Diamond Tiara and
anyway.
Silver Spoon have the same
Silver
voice.
Spoon turned her nose up and walked over to the box of decorations, inspecting them.
Besides, if they did, it might give them a heart attack.
She said with fake concern.
We should really move on somewhere more interesting, like the mall or the bowling alley. At least then we could do a little shopping or have some fun. After we finish decorating, of course.
She feigned a look of innocence, knowing from experience that her silver tongue and good looks were the key to getting her way.
Now, girls, the mayor has entrusted us
Oh,
to
and there's
decorate
Apple
the
Bloom.
whole entire town.
Exclaimed Pinkie, spreading her
Oh,
hands in the air
that was
as if
Pinkie
to
Pie.
encompass all of Ponyville.
It wouldn't be the whole town if we only hung spider webs and pumpkin lights in storefronts
You know,
and shopping malls.
I heard that
Pinkie Pie bubbled
Matt
as she
Pony
went
can do a
about
good
festooning
Apple Bloom
the quiet
voice.
post office with black and purple streamers.
Feels like we're going back.
Besides,
Feels like we're going back and the trees are screaming.
Old boring post office into someplace exciting, then it would be to make an already interesting place more exciting.
She smiled awkwardly as the postmaster gave her a look from behind the counter.
No offense.
Just then, Apple Bloom, Sweetie Belle, and Scootaloo tumbled in front of Pinkie Pie all at once. They were supposed to be spreading the webbing in the rafters, but had somehow managed to get themselves hopelessly tangled up with one another. Silver Spoon and Diamond Tiara led the other children in laughter at their misfortune. It didn't take Pinkie long to extract the
Yeah,
trio
how
of friends,
embarrassing.
She almost got herself just as badly tangled in the process.
What happened? I'm sorry, Pinkie Pie. It was all my fault. Me and my friends got to talking about all the candy we was gonna get come Nightmare Night, and I must have gotten a little distracted.
Apple Bloom grinned sheepishly.
Yeah!
Chimed in Scootaloo.
We had a ball last year going around with you and collecting candy.
You make a good point.
You
make a good point, Scootaloo.
We still have plenty to share.
Added Sweetie Belle cheerfully.
And I'm sure we'll have lots again this year, even after we leave our tribute. Leave it to you blanks to still be giving up your candy to Nightmare Moon. Every pony knows it's just Celestia's sister. She's not going to gobble you up if you don't give her some of your candy.
Diamond Tiara exclaimed, rolling her eyes.
We kept all our candy last year.
Added Silver Spoon.
As you can see, we're doing just fine. It was truly amazing, too. You know the neighborhood where I live? They give out full-size candy bars by the hookful. We were still eating Nightmare Night candy at Heartswarming.
The spoiled filly
Well, whatever.
appears
You don't have to, like, rub it in.
Imagined.
But I'm sure it won't matter if you do decide to leave a few fun-sized treats in the dirt.
grinned Diamond Tiara in a predatory fashion.
So the big bad princess won't gobble you up.
At that, the pair laughed uproariously. Apple Bloom and her friends just looked at each other. Sometimes Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon's sense of humor just didn't seem all that funny.
Yeah,
Even
not all that funny
Apple
at
Bloom
all.
wasn't one to back down from a challenge.
Well, we ain't gonna leave any of our candy then either. In fact, I bet we can collect more candy than you two, even with your fancy full-size candy bars.
Said the fiery-haired filly.
Oh, really?
Of course, we do know that Apple Bloom's mane
Whoever
is
wants the most candy
red.
wins. Let's say the losers have to give up all their candy.
Said Silver Spoon, a grin playing at the corner of her mouth.
You're on!
Cried Scootaloo.
Now hold on, girls.
Yep,
You can't
challenge
go
accepted.
crazy hoarding candy like that. Leaving an offering for Nightmare Moon is an important Nightmare Night tradition.
Said Pinkie Pie.
I mean,
Exactly.
Sure, it's tempting to hold on to all those gummy bears, and candy apples, and candy bars, and pixie sticks, and lollipops and gumdrops, and what were we talking about?
Everything,
Pink
Pinky.
Pony fanned herself with a rubber
Almost
bat, clearly
everything.
flustered.
Oh, right. But you couldn't really keep them all for yourself. That's not what Nightmare Night is all about, right?
I guess you're right, Pinkie Pie.
Said Sweetie Belle, looking down sadly at her hoofs.
Backing out of our wager already then?
Asked Diamond Tiara with a snide look on her face.
I guess it would be difficult for you blank flanks to compete with us if you're going to fall for all this tradition nonsense. Looks like we win by default. We'll expect your candy at the end of Nightmare Night. Don't go throwing too much of it away at the foot of some statue in the woods now.
Now hold on.
Cried Apple Bloom.
We ain't gonna be throwing away any candy, and we ain't gonna be welching on no bet. You have your candy ready to fork over to us by the end of Nightmare Night, and may the best Billy win.
Yep, challenge accepted.
We should move on, girls.
Tried Pinkie Pie, a little nervous at how serious things had gotten between the young friends.
Who wants to help me decorate the library?
Pinkie Pie!
Exclaimed Twilight, Sparkle, and
Twilight.
bafflement.
What are you doing?
A
Decorating
gathering
the
of
library.
villains and cults had invaded Twilight Sparkle's home and were clambering clumsily over her neatly arranged shelves. She and Spike had worked the better part of the afternoon taking the autumn audit of what books were checked out and what books were checked in, and what books were in need of repair before they could be returned to the shelves. Now, entire stacks of books were slipping, sliding,
Well,
and
poor
being
Twilight is just
knocked over
covered
by
in
pairs of
ribbons.
hooves. And in the middle of it all, Pinkie Pie stood cheerfully, half covered in fake spiderwebs and streamers.
Oh, hey, Twilight.
Said the pink pony, clearly delighted to see her friend. In the background, Snips and Snails tripped over one another in their efforts to hang
Snips and Snails.
bat-winged streamers along the stairs leading
good
up
to see those
Twilight's
two.
room. They landed in a clumsily laughing heap that nearly toppled an entire shelf of books.
I was hoping you'd be home soon.
Said Pinkie Pie.
Mayor Mare
Who?
is having me decorate
Twilight?
all the public buildings in Ponyville this year for Nightmare Night. But it wouldn't be half as much fun getting the library ready if I didn't have your input as well.
Pinkie Pie draped a forelimb over Twilight's
Well,
shoulder.
is
and
anybody
guided
worried
her
about
through barely
Applejack?
controlled
She's
chaos
been
of
impaled by the
laughing,
Candy
shouting
Mare.
children.
I was thinking bats everywhere, hanging from the ceiling and the stairs. Something to really catch every pony's eye when they walk in.
Twilight couldn't help being distracted as fillies ran back and forth, some trailing decorations in their wake, while others just seemed to be playing some kind of game.
But Pinkie, this is my home! We didn't decorate the library last year inside or out.
I know.
It doesn't matter if it has to be inside or
outside.
outside. Duh.
Fair that folks can only enjoy the fun of Nightmare Night downtown or in the big shops, and not in other places like boring post offices and libraries.
Twilight glared at her friend.
No offense. I just wanted to make sure that no matter where a pony goes in Ponyville, that the spirit of Nightmare Night will be with them. You know?
Twilight stared into Pinkie Pie's sincere, grinning face. For all the bedlam, it was tough to face that hopeful, well-meaning smile, and not cave just a little. I guess, Pinkie Pie, if the mayor approves.
Yep.
The party pony
That's how
gave
the
a
mayor
happy
approves
little
on
leap, pounding
decorating
one hoof
stuff.
in the air before Twilight quickly added. But please don't go overboard, and do your work quietly. This is still a library, and other ponies have the right to expect peace and quiet when they come here. Pinkie Pie gave a little salute.
Wait.
It seemed as though she was about to say something in reply when a
Wait,
loud
isn't that the
crash
voice
came from the
actress
back
that
of the
works
room.
with Ed Plus 777?
With all the close calls, it was a matter of time before an entire shelf of books would be knocked to the floor. Far from any pony being hurt,
Poor
however,
Twilight has to
the
start all
perpetrators
over
were
with the
shouting at one
reshelving.
another amid the wreckage of scattered books. Diamond Tiara and Apple Bloom's animated argument threatened to damage the books further as each filly seemed to be stomping mad.
Well, not. Well, so. Well, not. Well, so.
Girls! Girls! What's all this about? Cried Twilight, using her magic to separate the fillies.
She started it. She keeps saying we're gonna chicken out, but I don't want to stand for her talking about us that way.
Cried
Definitely.
A very agitated Apple Bloom.
Oh, please, Apple Blank.
Sneered Diamond Tiara.
Like there's anything you can do about it.
Twilight settled the pair back to the floor but still held them back from each other. Twilight turned to Pinkie Pie as she struggled to keep the fillies from hurting themselves or any pony else.
What in Equestria are they talking about?
She demanded.
They've been challenged of how much candy they get.
Mumbled the pink pony, smiling nervously.
We kind of have a bet going about who can collect the most candy.
Pinkie quickly added to the fillies.
But they're just going to have to collect that much more after they leave some for Nightmare Moon. Right, girls?
F.
Yep.
Replied Silver Spoon flippantly, standing with her
That's
nose
had to
in the
do-
air next to her friend.
That had to do with earlier.
Way.
Retorted Scootaloo, jumping in the air and fluttering her little wings in irritation.
Leaving a tithe of candy for Nightmare Moon is one of the oldest traditions of Nightmare Night.
Said Twilight Sparkle, shocked.
No bet could be worth breaking from tradition like that. I mean, remember last year? Wasn't it fun to leave a little candy so Nightmare Moon wouldn't get you? Jeez,
Yep.
listen to her.
Said Diamond Tiara dismissively, sharing a glance with Silver Spoon.
You'd think she was just some common pony and not Celestia's student. Did you leave candy for your teacher's sister?
Well, no, admitted Twilight. However, I did when
Yeah,
I was
not
younger.
at all.
Every nightmare
I don't
night,
think
my
Celestia
brother and I
goes
would
out
leave
to
a
Nightmare
little
Night.
pile next to the statue in Canterlot. Though that was just a statue of Luna, not really Nightmare Moon. Celestia didn't seem to like the image of her sister as a monster. I remember when... Twilight's eyes grew misty with memory, but Silver Spoon sighed heavily, interrupting her.
I'm sure you have many wonderful memories of the good old days, but do you really think Luna's going to get any pony that doesn't leave her candy? She didn't get you after all.
She pointed out disdainfully.
Of course not, silly. Twilight isn't a filly.
Laughed Pinkie Pie, trying to defuse the situation. Twilight, for her part, however, seemed to grow thoughtful. No, I guess she's right, Pinkie Pie. There's no point in lying. Princess Luna may be a little strange, but she's not dangerous.
Yeah, she
Night is
wasn't
fun
dangerous
to
at all
pretend,
back in the
but
beginning.
honestly, I don't see any harm from
Well,
them not giving up a bit
Being
of their
dangerous
candy,
as Nightmare Moon
even if it is
was
against
totally
tradition.
dangerous.
Pinkie Pie seemed genuinely shocked by her friend's words.
Don't listen to her, girls.
Said Pinkie urgently.
We have these traditions for a reason. The decorations, the costumes, the jack-o'-lanterns, the offerings to Nightmare Moon. They were all started to protect us. There's no good reason to turn your back on all of that now. Not so close to Nightmare Night.
The usual jovial pony pleaded, her deep blue eyes wide with worry. The girls in Twilight gave Pinkie a funny look, not really understanding what all the fuss was about.
Here, I'll show you. I know it's around here somewhere.
Pinkie Pie started rummaging through the
Well,
fallen books.
that's
It
Pinkie
always
Pie.
amazed Twilight that regardless of how disorganized the library might become, Pinkie Pie could always turn up just the book she was looking for. She wouldn't normally have suspected it to be something to do with the party pony's Pinkie sense, but the alternative was that Pinkie Pie might have a better grasp of the library's organization than Twilight, Spike, and Owlicious combined. Somehow, that was a more unsettling conclusion.
Of course, we do
than
get the
Pinkie's
point
sense.
that Spike and Owlicious
Pinkie Pie
lives
cried
in
triumphantly
Twilight's home.
as she lifted an old
course.
dark book from one of the piles that were bound for the
Twilight,
repair room.
Owlicious, and Spike
It
is
didn't
more
look
like a
much,
family.
or even as if it had anything to do with Nightmare Night. Instead of the mare and the moon, a crescent eye, or some other Nightmare Night symbol, there was only a woodcut of a few pieces of candy carved into the cover.
Ye old tricks and treats.
Wow, Pinky, that book looks like it's seen better days. Twilight examined the book closely. It was hard to tell if it had been damaged in the fall from the shelves or if it had already been in such poor shape. You should put it back so Spike can fix it before it falls apart. Twilight's
Yeah, you don't want to hurt Spike's feelings.
Held onto it firmly.
No, seriously, Twilight.
The party pony urged.
You and the girls should really read what this book has to say. There's more to Nightmare Night than just getting as much candy as possible.
Pinky looked shocked at her own words, but struggled all the harder against the pull of Twilight's magic.
And this is me saying that. You know how much I love sweets.
Let go, Pinky!
Twilight strained.
Yeah, just put it down, Pinkie Pie.
To shake off her friend's oddly adamant grasp. By now, Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon had wandered away to make some other pony's life miserable, but the Cutie Mark Crusaders watched the struggle between Twilight and Pinkie Pie go back and forth. All three winced as a loud rip echoed throughout the library.
Wow.
A cascade of book pages fluttered through the air. Between the two of them,
Way to go,
Twilight
Pinkie
and
Pie.
Pinky
You just
managed
blew
to
it.
break the book's fragile spine,
You blew it.
splitting its delicate pages in all directions. Both ponies seemed shocked at what had happened. Started Apple Bloom.
We'll just head on now, Pinky. I got chores and I need to get going back home.
Yeah, and I promised Rainbow Dash I'd pick up her dry cleaning.
Added Scootaloo as she nudged a distracted Sweetie Belle.
Oh, yeah, and I need to make sure that, Rarity's order of new material for her Nightmare Night costume came in.
Managed
Yep.
Sweetie Belle, her eyes glued
I
firmly.
wonder what Rarity's gonna
The trio
dress up for
scurried
Nightmare
away
Night.
before what would surely be an explosive argument between the two friends, but Sweetie Belle hung back a moment. Her eyes had lit on a few of the pages that had fallen from the old tattered book. No pony was looking as she discreetly stuffed the pages into her school bag and trotted quickly after her friends.
Oh, that was it for part 1. Narration, Katie Moore. Yep, Magpie Pony. I didn't get to read which voice actor Twilight was played by. Additional artwork by Kago. Huh. Well, that was pretty sudden. So yeah, that was my very first reaction video on my backup channel. So yeah, I'm just gonna end the video off here because I have no words to say. Once again, guys, thanks for watching and ahoy!